Welcome in to Bears Weekly, powered by IGS Energy, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
Oh, my gosh. We made it. We're a week out. The long NFL draft season. I mean, we're almost there, everybody. Bears picking 10th, a week from tonight. NFL draft, and here we go. Names are flying, but who's the realistic choices for the Bears to help get them back to the Super Bowl? We tackle all of it tonight on Bears Weekly here on ESPN 1000 on the Chicago Bears Radio Network with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak alongside Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio, the former Bears quarterback. Coming up in the program, we visit with the assistant head coach and receivers coach, Antoine Randle L. And we thank our producers, Dan Barilli, Jordan Tredup, and in the ESPN studio, Kendra Smith, our executive producer of the Bears Radio Network, Eric Ostrowski. We saw Tom Jim up here at Halas Hall today, a sighting that was a sight for sore eyes. Red carpet treatment for Tom Thayer. Tom, did you enjoy it? All the assistant coaches and coordinators spoke to the media today. Jim, it felt like a Super Bowl when during the week they put all the assistant coaches in the round tables with the media to talk to you, and Tommy was there. I loved every second of it, and good evening to you guys. Tommy, what'd you get out of it today?
First of all, I want to say hi to John Tarpey, Director of Security for the Chicago Bears, and then we went in the weight room and paid homage to the great Clyde Emmerich, because now they have a wall of honor for Clyde Emmerich inside that weight room. And I heard a lot of heavy weights bouncing around, and it was super pleasant sound for those of us that have weightlifting in our past. But, you know, going up to Halas Hall at this time of year, there's angst that's building because of the draft, but there's also a certain sense of, you know, just the off-season rituals that you go through. Said hi to Jonah Jackson, and I met the new offensive line coach and a bunch of the other personnel up there. But listen, man, I love being up at Halas Hall because it reminds me of when it was younger days in my life. But I also like to see the momentum in that building, man. There's a lot of positive vibe up there. It's got a good feeling. And so I'm excited to have been a part of today and all the, you know, the assistant coaches being there and having a chance to talk to them. It was a pretty cool day.
And, Jim, let me just step in here because I don't want people to think that we're just sitting here manufacturing hope. Tom's exactly right. Now, it's happened before in all of our time. There's an electricity here, and it is so palpable, and I am so impressed, Jim, with this coaching staff. And, again, they haven't coached a single game yet, but what they're saying about Ben Johnson, all these assistants and coordinators, and what they're learning, because a lot of these guys have not coached together, and how they present their information to the media, how direct they are in speaking. They're all speaking the same language already. Jim, it's a great start. That's what I got to say.
Yeah, well, hey, there's a lot of energy. There should be. I think, you know, from the same standpoint as a player's side, they know they've got a lot to prove. They've got to win these coaches over with how they perform, how they practice, how they work. The coaches then have to trust them, and there's still a lot of work to do. You know, they have yet to, like you said, to have their first practice as a football team and how they're going to perform as a unit together in all three phases. But they're, you know, saying all the right things. I think the players are excited, but I think the players know that they're on notice, too. That's why you make a coaching change. And so there should be a lot of energy in that building, a lot of positive energy in the building, and that everybody's putting their best foot forward to make the best impression possible. I think it's more on the player side, and yes, those coaches have to impress the players as well. You know, I think that goes both ways. I think Tom knows if maybe a head coach lets some things slide, players are going to be aware of that. Well, that's not an area of importance, you know, so I do think that goes both ways, but I think, again, a coaching change signifies a lot of things. There needs to be a new era of football. Chicago Bears, they have to find a way to win the division. They've seen teams in the division like the Detroit Lions turn it around, pretty quickly under new leadership, and they're basically the targeted team right now. I don't think anybody would say anything else that the Detroit Lions aren't the targeted team. They are. They've won the division. And so, I do think there should be a lot of positive energy, and it needs to be rightfully directed in all the, how should I say, the areas of where it needs to be directed, and that's towards winning, everything towards winning.
Man, listen, there's something I'm going to bring up later about Antoine Randle and what he said about winning, but the thing I'm going to bring up first of all is Declan Doyle. When he was up at the podium, they asked him about the offense, and he goes, look, there's no secret sauce. This is about teaching fundamentals and techniques and mentally getting this offense down with the complete understanding so you go out there and do things intelligently. And that's what I'd like to hear, because it's not about, some devised scheme that NFL players and coaches haven't seen before, because everybody's seen it all. But if you don't start with the basics of fundamentals and techniques, you're not going to be able to install anything successfully.
And they make a big emphasis that, yes, mistakes, they're not just looking past them. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, it's going to be called out immediately. And I think that's from the top down. Ben Johnson has empowered his staff to execute that to a T, Jim. And I think that's important to know from a player standpoint.
Well,
there will be none of that.
The basics have to be in place. It's always first things first. When you break down to tackle and how you tackle and how you block on a certain play, and it always has to be first things first. A quarterback-center exchange seems the most basic thing in football. You have to be able to do all those things in order to move on to the more difficult things. And then once you get the base down, and then you start to build around it. But it's first things first. And it's got to start somewhere, and it has to start with the basics of what's expected on every single play in very detailed manner of what's expected. And then once that expectation is laid down there, it's expected to be reached every single time. It's when you go to school, you're expected to do well. You're expected to advance from first grade to second grade to third grade, and you've got to put in the work, and there are certain things that you have to do in order to what? Advance. And they have to advance as a football team.
All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Dennis Allen from his podium appearance today up here at Halas Hall, the Bears defensive coordinator with Tom Thayer and Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 24 years, Jeff Joniak on the Bears Radio Network.
The Miller Lite Chicago Bears draft party is back at Soldier Field April 24th. A week from tonight, celebrate our number 10 pick and enjoy live draft coverage and analysis, on-field activities, a locker room tour, a closeout sale, and more. Buy tickets now at chicagobears.com/draft with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, and Jim Miller, the former Bears quarterback from SiriusXM NFL Radio. Earlier today at Halas Hall, as we get ready for this draft, a chance for the coaching staff that have been working behind closed doors, getting a plan together, not only for the draft but for the actual season and the playbook. Met all the media in town, and that was virtually every assistant coach, but including the coordinators. At the podium today, defensive coordinator Dennis Allen celebrating the signing, the extension of Kyler Gordon, and the next step for him.
It's good for us. It's good for our program. He was the guy that, when we first got in here and we watched the tape, a guy that we clearly identified as a guy that fit our scheme, the things that we want to be able to do. And so, we're excited about having him and looking forward to getting started.
Dennis, what specifically does Kyler do that intrigues you with the way you play?
Yeah, look, I think, he's got coverage skills. He's highly intelligent. I think one of the things that impressed me the most was, how they played him last year. They were kind of a field defense. He lined up to the field, but he got into the box a lot, and fit in the run game. And so I think he's got a really good understanding of how to fit there. And our nickels are going to have to fit in the run game. And so, I think that was kind of one of the things that we thought was a pretty good fit for us.
Is there a player you've coached that has a similar skill set?
Look, really, honestly, I don't really like to get into like all the comparisons and stuff like that. I would say that, a lot of things that we look for in the nickel position, he has that skill set. I think the other thing that, and I've talked to him about this, is where do we find that second position for him? Where it's not just he's a nickel only. Does he go outside and compete at outside corner? Does he compete some at safety? I've told him to, that he needs to be learning both of those spots, and we'll figure out where that second position, that where he can go and compete, and hopefully we can find some more playing time for him.
Do you have a sense of whether he'd be a better outside corner or safety?
Yeah, he's played more outside corner, so obviously that would be the comfort level. But some of the things that I see him do and the way that he fits in the run game tells me that he could be a fit, at safety also. So, and look, we've had guys that have had the flexibility to play a lot of different positions. I think that's important in today's football, where you're not just locked into one thing, being able to be multiple and do a lot of different things. And so that's something that I think he can do. And as we get to know him better, spend more time with him, start to get out on the field with him a little bit more, we'll have a better feel for, where that second position might be and where we want to try to work him.
Pressure up the middle was a big problem for the Bears last season. Do you feel like with the additions that you've made in the offseason that's going to be straight for this team this year?
I think it's a start. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think, look, we're never in the position that we're just satisfied with where we're at. We're going to continue to look for areas that we think we can improve this defense, But I do think we made some improvement in that area, obviously with the addition of Grady, as an interior defensive tackle. Dio, I think one of the things that he does exceptionally well is I think he moves inside in passing downs and rushes really well from the interior. So I do think we have some options in there, and certainly that to me that's like one of the main points of pass rush. Everybody talks about these speed rushers off the edge, but really it's about the interior pocket pressure that you have to have, and that allows guys like Montez Sweat to be able to have some success coming off the edge.
When you're installing your scheme and when you're getting to know these guys and matching the personnel, when it comes to personality or stylistically, how do you want these players to play within your defense?
Tough, nasty, hyper-competitive, play with a swagger, play with a chip on their shoulder. I think that's kind of been, the hallmark of the best defenses that I've been around. I think that's been a hallmark of a lot of great defenses that have been here in Chicago. And so I think that's what we're looking for.
All right. That is Dennis Allen, partially of this news conference today. Love what he had to say. Reaction from you, Tom, and Jim on Kyler Gordon. Last year he played on average about 48 defensive snaps a game. The leader for the team, Kevin Byard, who rarely got off the field, was at 62. So wants to see him get more reps out there.
Well, I like the fact that he immediately talks about exploring his versatility. Where else can you put Kyler Gordon in this offense to keep him on the field? And we've all seen what Kyler Gordon is capable of and his willingness to tackle. But we've also seen how creative he is when he lines up at all three levels. So I like that Dennis is already thinking ahead about what players can do for this team. And so I like to see what he thinks about Kyler Gordon. But the same thing about a guy like Javon Dexter. Where does he think that his expandability is on the defensive line? And can he move maybe to another position?
Yeah, I think, with the recent extensions, whether it's Gordon, TJ Edwards today, he's identified, hey, these are players that I can work with, that can make plays, and I do agree with Tom. I think, Kyler is a guy who I thought Matt Eberflus went outside his comfort zone. He proved how good of a blitzer he was. When the Bears were struggling with edge rushers and then they make the trade for Montez Sweat, they started to do more with Kyler Gordon. And when he succeeded and they kept on feeding him, he got better and better and was making more plays. I think he takes good angles towards the quarterback when he does blitz. I think he's got great football intelligence, has obviously, an eye for the football and his sticky hands, why he gets the nickname Spider-Man. And I'd say that for Edwards, too. That guy makes a ton of plays as a weak side backer what he's done not only for Philadelphia, but I think he's done nothing but impress me as a Chicago Bear. Has a nose for the football, flies around, and those are pieces to the puzzle that I think really Dennis Allen, when he arrived there, said, oh, yeah, I feel very comfortable. If you were to re-sign those guys, I plan on using them this way. I think I can use them in other ways. And I think that really solidified that the Bears were like, hey, these are two players that we need to lock up. And they already knew after talking to Dennis Allen that they were going to be key cogs in his offense or in his defense.
Edwards, nearly 300 tackles in 2 years, 6.5 sacks, 14 quarterback hits with the Bears, and an outstanding, just an overall great guy in that locker room for the Chicago Bears. Also, we're going to hear later in the show from Richard Smith, the 69-year-old assistant head coach, defensive assistant head coach on the linebacker level as well. We'll hear from him coming up later in the show just about the overall impact of the linebacker position and the speed, and that is a big thing for Dennis Allen. He likes speed, but there's all kinds of speed. There is straight line speed, there is linear speed in that regard, but there's mental speed, and there is lateral speed. There is many different ways to get to the football, Tommy, and I think that's certainly the case with T.J. Edwards.
Yeah, you listen, Dennis Allen, since he's been a defensive coordinator and a head coach in the NFL, that's one of the displays that his teams have always put on, is the fact that you have to bring intelligence that's matched with speed, athleticism, and then being able to get your jobs done. And when he talks about what his goal is for the defensive line and how it fits into assisting the linebackers and then how it filters to the defensive backfield, we all want to see a defense that plays fast, that starts up front. And we know that T.J. Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, that these guys can complement the defensive line up front. And we all know what we've thought about the defensive backfield the last couple of years and how we think it's progression and growth, because we know what Jalen is. I think we're kind of going to scratch the surface and we can ultimately see what Tyreek Stevenson can be. And I think Terrell Smith is a good guy to have in there to increase the competitiveness of the speed of the defense. So I'm really encouraged by what I hear, but now I'm excited to see it.
Also, today, just listening, and none of these guys, like they've not gone over the top about any particular player. They've been steady Eddie on, they haven't got these guys on the grass yet. They're just now learning, okay? They went back, watched all their tape. They're focused on the draft. But a couple of coaches, there's no depth chart. Like, what they're saying is, hey, we're putting everybody out there. May the best man win. I do like that thinking.
Dennis Allen said that to me today when I was talking to him. He goes, we have no starting lineup.
Yeah.
Is we're going to put a team out there, then the competition begins. So I think that's the same thing that Jim and I have been throughout our whole careers. Day one, nobody's a starter. You only happen to be penciled in on that day one where that's where you're going to line up, and that pencil has an eraser on it.
Yeah, those guys got to earn it. These guys are evaluating these players. Like you said, they've evaluated all the tape. They haven't put any pads on yet. So, yeah, there's going to be an evaluation through OTAs of what they do without pads on. Then when the pads are on, there's kind of a new evaluation because things change once the pads come on. And players are going to have to earn it. And you need to create a highly competitive atmosphere every single day. And it's got to be structured and focused on winning to be a better team. And that's what the foundation that they're laying. Those players got to compete. Nothing is going to be given to them. They shouldn't think that anything's given to them. I think contractually we know some guys are going to be there, but I think you have to make it as highly competitive as you can. They have not won anything. They haven't won anything for quite some time. And those players need to be reminded of that. They need to be reminded of that big time, that this is what's at stake here. We have to go win this division. Detroit has kind of dominated it. Minnesota's trying to make a move. Well, when are you going to put yourself into the picture? The Lions were able to do it and turn around their culture, and we'll see if the Bears are able to do it. But I do think that they are off to the good start, sending the right message, and I think Ben Johnson has really been firm with what is expected now moving forward.
It's a great word for it. Firm, no question. That's Tom Thayer, Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak. When we come back, a one-on-one conversation with Bears receiver coach and assistant head coach Antoine Randle. It's all coming up next here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by CDW, people who get it. Welcome back to Bears Weekly here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network with Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. As we continue our introductions of the coaching staff for 2025 and beyond, we are thrilled to be joined by Antoine Randle, the local product from Riverdale, Illinois, Thornton Township High School, all Big Ten quarterback at Indiana, 9-year NFL career, at wide receiver, and at times a quarterback, throwing touchdowns in Super Bowls. I mean, there's so much to get to, but good to see you. I've seen you up at Halas Hall a few times. The face is beaming. You're smiling. You must be thrilled to be here.
I am, man. I'm thrilled to be here. Excited to keep going now in terms of what we're building, changing the culture and getting to where we got to get to, getting the right love the players we have now, and then obviously want to add to it with this draft coming up. But man, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I go see my parents twice a week, which is great, and they love it. So it's awesome, and this is the time to do it because my wife's not here, and when they come up, my kids got all kind of games and stuff. So some of that'll be limited, but man, I'm enjoying it right now, especially having been able to spend this time with mom and pop as well.
Well, and as a Chicago kid, real quick, Tommy, because you were 6 when Tommy won a Super Bowl. Is that correct? The 85 Bears, were you about 6?
That's right.
There you go. Yeah, so, I mean, do you have any recollection of all that?
Yes, indeed. The Super Bowl shuffle and everything, like Fridge and him getting the handout, like you name it. I enjoyed watching it and really being a part of it, to be honest with you. That's, to me, like that was that's our highlight growing up, man, to be honest with you. So it's like for me, like growing up and seeing McMahon and Gentry, Willie Gault, and then we're playing Tecmo Bowl with those guys. so
how about some offensive linemen? Cool. How about that great offensive line?
Yeah, it happens where they just you don't really mention them guys. You mention the skill guys, and sometimes you mention Steve McMichael and them guys before you mention and Mike Singletary and all those other guys before you mention the offensive linemen, man, to be honest with you. But love that team and just love the Chicago Bears. I'm glad to be here coaching it. Like this is big time.
You know, Antoine, we could probably sit here and have a conversation with you for a half hour and never talk about football. Because when you talk about baseball and you talk about basketball and stuff. But when you look at the state of football today and you look at guys like Kyler Murray, if you were coming out of football today and you're playing quarterback in the Big Ten, would you pursue quarterback, or are you still okay with the transition of everything you've done in the sport of football?
I'm okay with everything I did in the sport of football at the time. And when I say at the time, I was pursued as more of a wide receiver, all right, and not a quarterback. And for me, the only reason why I really stayed on that track and not, I'd want to play quarterback, keep me a quarterback, was because my idea of playing pro sports was different than most, meaning like I wanted to play pro ball in whichever one came first. Like for me, whether it was basketball, whether it was baseball or football, whichever one of those came first. And I thought for sure it would be Major League Baseball when I got drafted. And my parents said, no, you're going to school, you're going to Indiana, get your degree, you're going to play ball there. You can play whatever you want to play there, but you are going to school. So for me, when the opportunity came to play in the National Football League, I didn't want anything to hold me back from doing that. So I made the decision very early on to start training, learning and understanding the wide receiver position. And at the same time, I still train as a quarterback. And sure enough, when I went to the different workouts, they were working me out as a wide receiver. And sure enough, hey, we want to get 25 to 30 throws out of you to see me as a quarterback. So no regrets at all. Fast forward to where we are now because of what has transpired and the pursuit of that position and the guys who are coming out and playing that position. Like you said, Kyler Murray and those different guys, that would kind of change it because I feel like I would match up with those guys pretty well in terms of being able to lead, not just complete and throw the ball, but, man, lead. I like leading
right.
the offense and putting people where they got to be and being successful on that end.
So when you're watching football now, do you watch it through the eyes of a quarterback or do you watch it through the eyes of a wide receiver? Because I think in order to coach wide receivers, you have to have the eyes of a quarterback. But so how are you? I'm an ex-offensive lineman, so usually my eyes gravitate towards the offensive line and I work out from there. What about you?
Well, for me, I do it through the eyes of the quarterback, meaning I want to make sure my guys are where they're supposed to be for the quarterback. Like, that's the deal, because I know playing that position, you drop back and that guy's not where you expected him to be. Like, that's an issue. Like, for a quarterback, it's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be 10 yards of depth or right outside the hash and you 15 yards, and now the timing is thrown off or whatever it is. So for me, I do see it through the eyes of the quarterback. Hey, for us, we got to be where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there. And that experience at quarterback helps me be able to teach the guys for sure as it relates to them being in the spots they need to be so the time of the quarterback works out.
Antwaan Randle, our guest here on ESPN 1000, Bears Weekly with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak. Give us the insight. What has it been like there with Ben Johnson? Obviously, you worked with him in Detroit, so you can give us more insight than most. But the collaboration of all these coaches, all these different insights, minds, experience levels, and experience. Fill us in. What's it been like?
Well, it's been great, and I tell you, it's a different feel. And when I say different feel, like, we're not coming here and saying the way we ran it in Detroit is the way we're gonna run it here. Like, man, we have some offensive minds that understand football as well. And then we talk about our defense, like with DA coming in and what he's done over the years defensively and the different people we've brought in, like with Al and obviously Bill and Richard, like those are like cornerstones of football, and they know the game from that standpoint in terms of making sure we have what we need, the personnel, but then making sure the scheme is right, and making sure like we know how to coach ball, but how do we continue to lead ball? And for us, it's about leading this group, not just in practice, not just, when they're way down in the weight room and that type of deal. But, man, when we're in game, how do we lead them and give them the best opportunity to be able to win? And we feel like we're going to do that. And we're starting this offseason bit by bit, implementing offense, bit by bit, implementing on the defense. And same thing with Hightower and our special teams department in terms of making sure we're implementing these things bit by bit, because we got a lot of knowledge, but we have to be careful not to just throw it all on the players. We can't give it to them all at once. We want to, give them what they need right now and continue to grow from there. And that's what we're doing. And it's going to be good. It's just a matter of time us getting going in a way that they understand it and that it's clear, it's detailed. It's not, a if or maybe. This is where you're supposed to be. This is how you need to get there. And then, we let the guys be athletes. We don't want to be robots, but we do want to start from a standpoint of detail and what that detail looks like.
Antoine, there's the words since the end of last season and even leading up to this season has been accountability and culture. You have a playing background. You know what those two things are in the reasoning for success on a team. How can you stress accountability and culture as a coach?
Well, I think you stress it. One, you set guidelines and what you expect. All right. And the expectation in the wide receiver room, the tight end room, the defensive backs room, the line, but like the expectation is going to be high. All right. And with that being said, like you make sure when you talk to your guys about these expectations, you want them to take ownership of it. Like, it's only so much for us as coaches that we can do. Like, we can rah, encourage you all day long, but at some point, these expectations and what we're giving you, like, they need to take and grab the bull by the horns and let's roll in terms of the accountability. And that's the ownership part. When that starts taking place, and it'll start taking place even more with the veterans in the locker room. Like, it's got to be like when you understand, like, you as a coach, man, you got to get those veterans in the locker room to believe in what you're doing, and they'll just continue to grow and grow and watch all the other guys follow from that standpoint. So once you get them believing and understanding that expectation, the veterans are the ones who are going to kind of take and lead the group because you can only do so much as a coach. But you got to start with the expectations. You got to start with the guidelines. Here, this is what it is, and this is what it's about, and here we go.
The terminology that you're teaching all these guys for the first time, is this terminology you're familiar with from being with Ben, or is this new terminology to you yourself?
Well, some of it's new because we obviously the way we've operated sometimes on the ball and all the different calls that we make. We can't have the same calls, especially being in the same division. So we just got to make those adjustments. But as it relates to the way we teach it, how we teach it, it won't be a whole lot of change as it relates to the teaching part of it. But as it relates to the on-the-ball stuff, like that'll be different. So it's a little bit of a new learning curve for me, but it won't be something that's out of the blue that we can't teach and we can't get them to understand. It's going to be great. And the way we have it packaged, it'll be packaged so they understand it, they get it, and at the same time, it paints a picture for them to understand, okay, this is what this route means. This is what this run play means, whether it's inside zone. I shouldn't say inside zone, but it's tight zone or wide zone from that standpoint, and it helps us move forward.
All right, final question for assistant head coach, which is a nice title to have, my man. Wide receivers.
Yes, it is.
Yes, Antoine Randle climbing that ladder. All right, I like it right here in Chicago. Have you gotten a taste from the players in this short couple of weeks so far, or just your conversations about guys' desire to win? This team has really had a hard time finding that magic potion of learning how to do it. You got DJ Moore, who's been around a while but hasn't had a lot of experience winning it. But can you feel that from them? And what can you tell them?
No question. And Ben kind of set the stage. He set the stage in our team meeting, our first team meeting, to the point where the players are walking out like, okay, all right, this is the real deal. Here we go. And then we as assistant coaches, we follow it up so that they understand, like, this is the road we're going and this is how we're going to get there. So it starts there. So, yes, we do feel that and we see it just in terms of the participation with players who are here voluntarily getting the work done in the strength and conditioning area right now. And then obviously we hit the field with them here in a week or so as it relates to us moving to the field, but we feel it, we see it, and it's just a matter of time of just watching it continue to grow and grow and grow. And that's what we're excited about it as coaches. Like you in the office all the time, you spend 70% of your time in the office, and now you're going to have opportunity to go to the field and get with the guys for the first time, which will be here in the next couple of weeks, and that's going to feel real good, and I'm excited about it for sure.
Yeah, we all are, man. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Welcome back home, and enjoy every bit of it.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys.
Antoine Randle here on Bears Week. We'll continue with Jim Miller, Tom Thayer, and myself after this break on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff, Tom, and Jim, as we get you set for the draft. It's coming up a week from tonight. Jim will be in Green Bay doing his thing. We'll be at Soldier Field doing our thing with Watto and Sylvie here on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network and entertaining the fans that come out. Certainly, the excitement is building. Jim, what are you hearing around the league, all the conversations you're having on SiriusXM, all your connections about what might be happening at 10 and, frankly, for the first few picks for the Bears?
Well, yeah, I think, quarterbacks typically have always driven drafts. We've talked about that, and this year it really is not the case. We're going to have to see where Shedeur Sanders actually falls to. I do think Cam Ward is probably going to be a lock to go number one. What does Cleveland do at number two? The Giants there are picking high. Skill position players could start to go there, and I think everybody expect those to be defensive players. So it's going to leave good offensive players are out there. Edge rushers, I think, are going to dominate the first round. There are a lot of guys that have been gaining a lot of steam, like hopefully I can pronounce his name right, Donovan Ezaruku, the edge rusher out of Boston College. That seems to be a guy that's garnering a lot of attention. I know Mike Green from Marshall. I expect him to probably go in the first round, but I do think those edge rushers, if teams that are looking for edge guys, and it's going to leave a lot of good offensive players there. And I do expect the run on offensive linemen. If say, Will Campbell falls past New England at 3, I would think the Bears have a great shot to get themselves a left tackle. And I know he's been mocked to the Bears quite a bit. I know Genty has as well, but because those quarterbacks, or lack thereof, that will be taken early, there's going to be a lot of good positional players that are there.
Yeah, well, last week we talked about 7 different writers from NFL.com, 6 different Bears picks, and that keeps changing. I think you and your partner there, Pat Kerwin, said that there were upwards of 51 different first-round picks from all the mock drafts that you guys happen to look at, and I think Tom feels the same way. It's just been changing on the daily, Tommy. Are you narrow-focused on what you want right now?
No. Yeah, I'm a narrow focus on what I want, but I still think it's the most complicated, predictable draft that there's been in maybe the last 30 years. Just because, how many bona fide John Elway, Dan Marinos are there in this draft? Not only quarterbacks. I mean, I'm talking Jimbos and the other guys that
Hall
are
of Famers.
Bona fide. Ashton Genty. I don't even think Cam Ward has reached that type of astronomical opinion of everybody, because they don't know, even though if he's going to be the first pick, is he really going to turn out to be the draft choice that first pick is supposed to be? So I can't wait for the draft because, I don't want to disrespect Laramie Tunsil, and I don't want to disrespect Michael Penix, because nobody knew what was going to happen the night before the draft or how the draft was going to turn out for Atlanta last year when they just signed a quarterback to a $100 million deal, and they went and drafted a quarterback in the first round. So I tell you, I just think this is a roll of the dice draft.
Yeah. Every team's board is stacked differently for those reasons. It's interesting, and Tom, and I think we've said it on the show. Think about Cam Ward. This guy did not even get an offer to a Power 5 conference. I mean, he went to Incarnate Word, then went to Washington State, and then was going to go pro, and then was, basically NIL money took him to Miami. He wasn't even offered a scholarship out of high school, and he could be the number 1 overall selection. So I just think that says it all. Every year we look at the first round, and I know that's what a lot of media and fans focus on, is that first round. But in all reality, look at this past year's draft, or 4 years ago, I should say, when teams have to decide on the fifth-year option. Over half of them do not even get the fifth-year option. Okay, so they have fallen out of favor of their team. So half of the first round is going to be wrong. And going into this year's draft, Gil Brandt used to say probably about 14 to 17 guys are legit first-round picks. And that number where you get 51, Jeff, which is basically 2 rounds, essentially, that means there are a lot of guys that are going to be there. That is really the meat and potato of your draft. It's going to be the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. They're good football players. They're not gold jacket guys, but they're going to be huge contributors to your team. And, every year that happens. And it was funny because we had a conversation. I look at Dave Gettleman. Dave Gettleman, for the listeners out there, he's the former GM of, obviously, the New York Giants. And running backs have taken a lot of beating. This guy drafted Christian McCaffrey when he was general manager of the Carolina Panthers, and he drafted Saquon Barkley when he was the general manager of the Giants. And I don't think anybody could say it. Both those guys could be gold jacket guys, but yet he got killed for his drafts. He doesn't know how to draft. He's drafting a running back in the first round. Those are the 2 best running backs in the National Football League. Saquon Barkley is like a unicorn. He is one of 9 guys now that has rushed for 2,000 yards in a season. And people were killing Dave Gettleman. So Dave Gettleman knew who blue-chip draft picks were. And those 2 guys are blue-chip draft picks. And now he's no longer in the NFL. But, man, what great selections at a position that seems to be devalued, but yet were huge contributors for their teams in the run to Super Bowl.
There's a lot of them. I just did like 30 of them, so they're all interesting, every one of them. So we got to take a break. One more segment to go. We'll wrap things up here on Bears Weekly with Tom and Jim. I'm Jeff Joniak. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly. with the voice of the Bears for 24 years, Jeff Joniak. On the Bears Radio Network.
Final moments here on the show. Again, all the assistant coaches meeting with the media today. Had a chance to sit down with the defensive assistant, a senior defensive assistant, and helping out with the linebackers. Running that group is Richard Smith, nearly 40 years in the NFL. This is what he feels about a man he never worked with before, head coach Ben Johnson.
Ben's the real deal now. He's young, he's sharp, he interacts with all of his coaches, which when you're an offensive coach and you're a head coach, you mainly feel more comfortable around the offensive guys. He'll make it an opportunity to come in every day and talk to you, and that's very, very unusual. Highly intelligent. I respect the heck out of him. We played against them at Detroit, and they were extremely well coached and a really good football team. You know, if they didn't have the injuries, I think they would have won the whole thing. Yeah. And you met him. I think he's unbelievable people skills. You know, he's a good family man. I think from an organization standpoint, you couldn't be any prouder. He's going to make the organization and the city proud, you know. And now what we got to do, we came here and we're paid to win, and that's what we came here to do. We got to try to change it a little bit here and see who can handle it and keep the thumb on everybody and see if we can get these players better.
Yep, that's the key. That's about coaching. Tom, he's also very high, of course, on Dennis Allen, whom he's worked with in the past. But those are pretty interesting comments about the head coach.
He's mentioned the high quality of the character of Ben Johnson, and I'm excited to see that be put in motion by being the head coach and how his character affects the players.
Jim?
Yeah. Well, I think, I've seen a lot. When coaches haven't crossed paths like that and they speak that highly of, a coach that they've coached against, I think he's a real deal. I think, obviously all the accolades, the platitudes, but again, now that they're there, they're in the building, they're going to work with all these players, and I don't think it'll change. I like how firm they've been this offseason because a lot of it is on the players. And I think Antoine Randle said it earlier about how they're going to, disseminate the information. There's two ways to do it. You can give all of it or you can piecemeal it. And it sounds like they're going to piecemeal it so that, hey, there are no mistakes when it comes to what is going to be expected of how we teach you, how you need to go out and execute it. They're going to cover it piece by piece so that every player is detailed in order to get done what they want to accomplish.
Jim, we need you on Monday night for another version of Bears Weekly. You in?
Yeah, Jim.
I'm in.
All right.
Are you kidding?
That's going to do it for tonight's show. We'll get deeper into the draft on Monday. Thanks to our producers. Thanks to our guest, Antoine Randle. For Jim Miller and Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. This has been Bears Weekly on the new radio home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago. Jack McGrath is coming up next. Good night, everybody.